It is time to expand minds through movies, TV, sports, and flicks. It is time to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. It is time for the Captain Talks Flicks.
The Captain Talk Flicks.
Welcome to the Captain Talks Flicks podcast. I'm your host, the Captain Cortez, aka Mr. Love, and this is where we talk flicks. And ladies and gentlemen, this past week, I went back to the world of espionage. Back to the great game, The Wilderness of Mirrors. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I went back there one more time. I went to the show called CIA. And I'm going to get into that. First couple things. I want to give a big shout out to Utah. Got some plays in Utah this past week. Gracias, gratitude, Todoraba. And Utah, I met somebody from your land recently, the last 6 months. I met somebody from your land, very cool person, told me stories of your great land. So thanks for listening, gracias, gratitude. And additionally, this episode is brought to you by the song called Victors by me, King Cortez, and Queen Cortez. We did a song called Victors. It's about being a victor in whatever endeavor you're taking on. School, work, sports, some kind of challenge. It's being victorious over. So if you want to check that out below, now let's get on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this past week, like I said, I went back to the CIA and observed some espionage and tradecraft, right? Yeah, I did that. So I'm going to get right into the episode. So this week, we found that someone was trying to get exfilled from a foreign country. I'm not going to say which specific country it is, but they were just trying to get exfilled. So our team had to go in and exfil them. Now in the show, it's like a 4-man team. It's like an analyst, and there's 2 case officers, operatives, and there's like the chief of station or the head of station. And so she took it upon herself to go over there and go ahead and do the exfil herself. And the exfil is when they go towards some of their people, right, and they get them out of there. So for example, if you were working for the CIA in another country and you want to get out of there, but you had to get out of there at means that weren't like the normal way, they go for the exfil, get you out of there. If you've ever seen the movie Argo with Ben Affleck, that's exactly what they do there. So basically, a lot of times these intelligence agencies, not just CIA, any intelligence agency. In the last episode, they talked about how it's just like wearing a baseball hat and a jersey and play for different teams. I've said on the podcast many times that basically you work for the CIA, the Mossad, or SVR, or whatever intelligence agency you're talking about. It's just like working for them. You're wearing their hat. You're on their team basically. And so those guys do the same thing. They want to get their people out of wherever they're at, right? They all do the same thing. But it was in this episode we find our crew go to try to get a guy out of there. And so they do. They get him out. Spoiler. And in the process of getting him out of there, the head of station gets caught. The chief of station gets caught. And so it's up to our crew, our guys, the CIA guy and FBI guys, to get her out. So they go through a long process trying to do that. I'm not going to spoil the rest of it, but yeah, they end up, getting her out of there. Now, seeing this episode kind of made me think about 2 different things. A couple different things, first of all. Okay, first of all, there's an ongoing plot in the series where the FBI dude's kind of got to find the mole in the CIA, I think, or some kind of mole trying to find. So he has to kind of, infiltrate the CIA fusion cell, or what do they call it? So he can try to find this mole. So his boss tells him, you gotta, get in your trust. So I'm gonna start with that. So it shows in this episode how he goes about gaining the CIA guy's trust. I forgot his name. I'm sorry, it's Colin or something like that. So it made me think a lot about how does one go about gaining trust of someone? As long as I've been alive, I never really thought about it like that because I'm not like some kind of Machiavellian strategist or thinking, how can I gain their trust? I'm just kind of doing my thing, being nice to people. That's all I do. I just operate normally by being nice. Being nice to people is what I do. But I've never intentionally tried to, get in good with someone purposely. I never had to do that in my life. There was no reason for me to do that. But it did make me think, if I was trying to get in with someone and, be friends with them or, gain their trust, quotation mark, how would I want to do that? Yeah, in this particular episode, he does something for the CIA people that was considered hard to do when he had to take some shortcuts to it, and they kind of, he's one of us. So I think maybe it's just doing something for someone that is difficult with no expectation of any kind of return. It's what it is. So maybe, I'm trying to work this definition to how to gain trust, but I'm thinking maybe doing something for someone that is maybe a little difficult, that inconvenience them as well, and not expect anything in return. That may be one method of gaining someone's trust. I'm sure there's many, but that's just one that seemed to be used in the show. And, if someone's trying to, gain trust, that might be one way to do it. In the spy world in general, it's all about gaining trust anyway. If you want to get access to information or things, you kind of got to gain trust of these marks or agents you're trying to get hold of. And you got to go in there, slide in there with your words, language, and just gain that trust. Now, in my real world living, for me, it's time. Time spent together is what creates that, in my opinion. I've known people for a long time, and they've showed up all the time, so I trust people. They've showed up a lot. They're dependable, and it may be that I don't know. I'm still kind of figuring that out. But it is interesting that trust in this particular episode, and also in general, plays a big role in the spy world, right? Gaining trust, getting trust. They trust me, right? So anyways, that's kind of an interesting ongoing topic that'll go on to this show and more. We'll delve with this as time goes by. We'll just scratch the surface on that, obviously. And then one additional thing in this show I found interesting as well was that when the CIA head of station, was captured, the opposition intelligence agency was just basically threatening her, we're gonna get the information out of you, indicating they were gonna do some unpleasant things. So it's well documented that sometimes if you're captured by the opposing team, to put it lightly, they're not very nice to you. They want to get the information, and they're going to take certain means to achieve and getting that information. And then there's a scene in there where the opposition intelligence agency tells her that, she's like, hey, we're going to go do this. We've been nice, but now we do something else because we need this information. Give it to us. And she's on the way taking out. She goes like, I will not break. And I would say the same thing personally. I say it all the time. I say, I'm not breaking. But realistically, after being alive for 50 some years, it does seem, and I think experts say this, that every human being has a breaking point. If you put enough pressure on a human being, they will break. It's a matter of when, I think. And I hope that any of you guys never experience any kind of situation where you're in a position where you need to have that to happen, because would not be pleasant. Generally, as just regular human beings walking Earth, in America or wherever you're at, it's not something you have to really worry about. You have to worry about someone trying to break you, quotation mark, because generally, us regular guys, that doesn't happen. But in the high stakes world of espionage and spying, stealing secrets, sometimes this does occur, right? And in this particular episode, they were going to go ahead and do that to this lady. Fortunately, they worked out something. They were going to do a spy swap and trade people, to save her, which supposed to works out. But as far as the fact that she just said, you will not break me, is phenomenal. She's just defiant to the end, right? And then that's how I think someone should be. But generally, just not in the spy world, but in real life, enough pressure on human, they will fall, they'll break. Now, one additional thing too, which I've read a lot about, is that if you put human beings in duress, torture, enhanced interrogation, a lot of thinking on that is that basically they'll tell you whatever you want to know, no matter what, right? Just to stop the pressure that's put on you, right? So a lot of it, I guess, is not reliable, because you can't be 100% sure if they're just saying it or they're just saying it because they want you to stop. I've been in a position where my mind was cloudy and started believing things that weren't really my me, you know what I mean? And I had to check to say, bro, it's not me. But you get worn down a lot, don't sleep deprivation, don't eat, right? And your mind can do, interesting things. Now, I do this on purpose. I purposely fast and have not slept, take cold showers, and I've purposely put myself through adversity on purpose. I wasn't being done that by anybody else, but in doing that myself, my mind did go certain spaces, because that will do that. I do it to go ahead and toughen my body up, my mind up, and to be clear, I do not recommend you do these things. I'm not saying do these things. Don't. This is what I do. Shouldn't do this. Consult your professionals first. But I do it just to, make myself a better version of myself. But if you were being subject to that from somebody else, they're trying to extract information, they do say that's questionable as far as it's, if it's real or not, basically. I read a book from a guy who was a Secret Service guy, FBI guy, and his method for interrogation, preferable, as it's got the best results, was use of building rapport. Building rapport, according to him, is the best way to do it. And honestly, as a person that lives out in the real world, it's been good for me. It's build rapport. People just tell you whatever. People just love to tell you stuff, right? And if you're a nice person, you're good to talk to, they'll just tell you whatever you want to know. I didn't get anybody drunk or none of that. Just having conversations. Some people just love to talk. I'm one of them, actually. So yeah, you can go and put people in stress positions and, sleep deprive them and play hardcore music, all night and they'll tell you stuff, right? And they'll spill their guts, but it might not be true. But fortunately, in this particular episode, they didn't do none of that. They saved the lady. Thank goodness. I wanted her to go through that. She's a very sweet lady. I've seen many of things. She was in Star Trek, actually. So anyways, a lot of questions getting raised in this spy show. Now, obvious fiction, and it's not real, but there's things in the spy world you can talk about from this show because it kind of brings it up. I've read so many books of real books, of fiction books or non-fiction books. So documentaries, so I have understanding of how some of this stuff works. And to be real, the more I read about it, the more I want no part of it. It seems fun, but until it gets real, it's not. Until you're getting interrogated, bro, it's not fun. I'm sure of it. I'm pretty sure it's not. So anyways, CIA and CBS is phenomenal from Dick Wolf. You know I'd love it. If it's a spy show, I will talk about it. I love spy shows, been loved forever. So it's a great show. I highly recommend if you're into spy stuff, check it out. And honestly, it's rated pretty good on the IMDb, which is interesting. So anyways, if you want to go to the CIA, Spy and Espionage, the great game, The Wilderness of Mirrors, bro. Yes. So anyways, check out CIA. Great show. And until next time, we'll see you. The truth will set you free. Till next time, scat the peace.
The Captain Talks.